All right, welcome in. It's the Breer Report for November the 7th. This is our mailbag edition. We are going to get to all of your questions. An eventful week in the NFL. Week 9 now complete. Week 10 starts tonight with the Bengals and Ravens in Baltimore on Thursday Night Football. We had a coach firing this week. We had the trade deadline this week. So let's jump right in what you guys got for me. Question number 1 from Corey Bowler. That's at Corey Bowler. Any shot the Bears jettison Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron before the end of the season? Corey, I think that's very unlikely. The reason why is who the Bears organization has always been, who the McCaskies have been over the years and running that team. I just think it's pretty unlikely that they would pull the plug on a head coach and an offensive coordinator in the middle of a season, especially when the development of a rookie quarterback hangs in the balance. Now, that said, that does not mean that they aren't at a critical point right now. They have ahead of them a game against the Patriots, then 3 division games. And that's coming off of a tough 2-week stretch in a lot of different ways. They lose in the Hail Mary to Washington, of course. There were the things that happen on the Hail Mary that point right back to coaching. And then what you'd want coming out of that game is a real response from the team. Instead, they sort of rolled over and lost to the Cardinals. So that sets up a critical week this week and a critical month over the next month. It's critical this week because they're playing a Patriots team that's very beatable, and they've fallen now a couple of games back in the NFC North. And based on how the Vikings have played, based on how the Lions have played, based on how the Packers have played, it's going to be tough to keep up in that division if they don't get a game like this one. So this is a very important week just because it's such a winnable game against New England. And then the 3 weeks after that are division games, which probably determine which way the season goes. So do I think there could be changes after the year? Certainly could be. It's an important juncture for the franchise with their rookie quarterback now in place. And the fact that coming out of this year, they'll be in a position where they want to take advantage of having him on a rookie contract, and his development will be paramount. So do you believe that Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, the guys that are on hand right now, are the guys to handle a critical stage of Caleb Williams' career? That's the question McCaskey is going to have to ask themselves. But again, I think they asked that question to themselves after the year, not during the season. Though, again, this is a critical stretch coming up with the Patriots this week and then 3 division games. Question number 2, this is from MMMM. That's at God's Cousin Matt. God's Cousin asks, does Chris Grier survive the season? He's been given longer than most other GMs. He has very little success to cling to. Being a Bill Parcells disciple can only take you so far. It's, again, another interesting question. I think where they are right now, it has a lot to do with the injury situation that they've endured. They lose their edge rushers. That's a big deal. They go without their quarterback for more than a month. I think we've seen over the last couple of weeks, even though they lost the Cardinals, they lost the Bills, a much different looking team with Tua in there. The problem is now the defense has its issues. So they've been sort of chasing these things all year. I think Chris Grier's put together a really talented roster. I think if you look at it on balance at the premium positions they've invested, Teron Armstead at tackle, Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, you got Waddle and Hill at receiver. Their edge rushers, again, they're hurt right now, but they've got Phillips and Chubb. And then they've drafted Chop Robinson in the first round, and they went and got Jalen Ramsey for the post-Savion Howard era. So they've been well fortified with good players at the premium positions. I think that the roster, again, has been pretty balanced the last few years. They made the playoffs last year. I just have a hard time after, all the ups and downs that franchise has been through, the Adam Gase era, the Brian Flores era, that now it feels like they've established an identity and they've kind of found some solid ground. Like that this would be where you would want to turn things upside down. I'm not sure this is the spot to do it. So I think this is going to wind up being Chris Grier's mulligan year. That's the way I see it anyway. Again, he hasn't been perfect, and we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But as it stands right now, I'd be surprised if they let him go. Finally, question number 3. This is from Craig Evans. That's at Craig Evans 06. Do the Browns move on from Ken Dorsey soon? Seems like Stefanski's friend, Clint Kubiak, will be available after the season. I guess my producer, Kent Brown, liked the questions about firings this week. Well, I think to answer this question, you got to go back to why they hired Ken Dorsey in the first place and what the idea was. And the primary reason for moving on from Alex Van Pelt after last year was ownership's desire to see a little bit more from Deshaun Watson. Obviously, injury has affected that. He wasn't great coming into the year. He didn't play well, even at points where it seemed like he was healthy, and now he's out for the year with a torn Achilles. So that part of the plan is blown up. We don't know how Ken Dorsey would have finished the year with Deshaun Watson and how he would have developed Deshaun Watson, got more out of Deshaun Watson, because we didn't get to see the end of that story. What we will get to see through the rest of the year, when I'm looking at this objectively, is we will get to see whether or not the vision for the offense takes hold. And, I think part of the reason, again, why you do this and why you went this way for Kevin Stefanski, separate, independent of the Watson element, is you wanted to evolve the offense. And one of the things that they looked at was how the Ravens have evolved it over the years. Since Lamar Jackson was drafted in 2018, they've had 3 different offensive coordinators. When Lamar was a rookie, it was Marty Morenweg, who's well respected and a very much in that Andy Reid coaching tree, a trusted disciple, guy who worked with John Harbaugh in Philly. So Marty Morenweg was the first one. Then you go to Greg Roman to try to evolve it and develop a run game that really fits Lamar Jackson. Then you come back with Todd Monken to try to develop the pass game to match the run game. And it wasn't so much that John Harbaugh was firing guys or throwing guys overboard or pointing the finger. It was just a philosophical thing for the Ravens, and that we want to keep the ball moving forward, and we want to keep adding, and we want to keep ahead of the posse. That was the idea with Ken Dorsey. So I love Clint Kubiak's potential as a play caller. Obviously, it looked great in September. Hasn't looked as good since. They've had a quarterback injury in New Orleans. But if Stefanski's idea is to keep evolving what they are offensively, keep evolving who they are and what they're going to be, well, this would be sort of rolling it back to what they were before. So I just look at like the timeline of the way all this played out, and it just, again, I think the world of Clint, I'm not sure that was really what Kevin was trying to accomplish when he went and hired Ken Dorsey. And so he'd have to be going back on that, to go back to somebody from his own coaching tree. Again, doesn't mean it can't happen, but it'd be surprising. And I still think we got to give Ken Dorsey a little bit more of a chance based on the circumstances. He's now, going to build an offense for Jameis Winston. He's worked with 3 different quarterbacks that have been in there, and the tackle situation has been messed up by injury really all year. Jed Wills hasn't played great. They're dealing with the loss of Bill Callahan. There's just a lot going on there. So I don't think they move on from Ken Dorsey after the year. And again, philosophically, if you wanted to keep evolving their offense, I'm not sure it would make sense to reach back into Stefanski's tree that way. Anyway, we will be back with another Breer Report on Friday morning. Appreciate you guys coming out. Keep the questions coming. Next week, if you want to send us some video mailbag questions, you can do that by sending your questions on camera to breersimailbag@gmail.com. Again, week 10 begins tonight. Can't believe we're already here. We're at the midway point of the season. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.